Hang on a second. Let me get a sip of my booch. Oh, it tastes like feet. It really does, but it's good for you. That's what they say. Do I look stupid? Maybe. Hi guys, welcome back. In today's episode of Crue Trime. Crue Trime? Crue Trime. This is the story of Tyler Hadley. Hi there. If you are new here, my name is Sarah, and today I'm going to do my makeup and then tell you a terrible story. Before we get too far into this episode of Crue Trime, I wanted to remind you guys about merch. So there's actually a new design in the merch store that I forgot to tell anyone about at all. So this is very similar to like the plastic grocery bag. This says thank you, thank you, thank you a bunch of times. This one says Crue Trime. Obviously, you guys can read. There's also kind of the same design, but this one says unsubscribe. Can we just unsubscribe from everything? That would be great. So this is a white sponge fleece hoodie. This is a heathered, like super soft t-shirt design. These t-shirts are like the softest. They feel vintage, like straight out of the bag. It is also available in black in both the t-shirt and the hoodie. Everything's gonna be linked down in the description box, so go check it out. I don't know what's happening with my hair, but this is what we're getting today. So today's episode of Crue Trime is a little bit different, although maybe not, because spoiler alert, this kid killed his parents. And we've already had one of those stories before. It's pretty terrible. They're all terrible. Why am I even saying this? All of these stories are terrible. All of the items that I'm going to be using today will be linked down in the description box, so just go check that out if you see anything that you like. Let's get started. On July 16th, 2011 at 1:15 p.m., 17-year-old Tyler Hadley updated his Facebook status. Party at my crib tonight, ... Maybe. At 8:15, he updated the post, party at my house, HMU. HMU means hit me up. I had to look that up because I didn't know what it meant. I am very old. One of Tyler's friends responded to the post and said, "What if your parents come home?" And he said, "They won't. Trust me." Just after 11 p.m. that night, a former classmate of Tyler's arrived at 371 Northeast Grander Avenue with about 10 other friends. But he wasn't really friends with Tyler at all because they were troublemakers. They were into drugs, but you know what? A party's a party, and there was nothing else to do in Port St. Lucie. Port St. Lucie, Florida. It's a quiet little retirement haven in like mid-southeastern Florida. It's largely occupied with, how can I put this nicely? Old people. 20% of the population there is over the age of 65. So this is from census.gov. I looked it up. The town largely kind of caters to a slower paced populace, you know, golf, assisted living, bingo. It's very suburban, quiet, and although it is attractive to retirees, it's the home of the New York Mets training camp. It's not the worst place in America, but for young people, the only thing to do there is get in trouble. So after Mike and the 10 other kids showed up at this house, Tyler answered the door. He was very clearly on drugs. His eyes were huge. His pupils were enormous, right? He was rubbing his hands together kind of nervously. It didn't take long for the party to balloon to nearly 100 people in it's like a regular size house. There was smoking, drinking, loud music, everything you're picturing. Like this was a party. So with such a raging party, people were asking, how'd you pull this off? Like, where are your parents? Tyler told one kid that he lived alone. He told another kid that his parents had gone to Georgia. He told another kid that they had gone to Orlando. So just lots of different stories. But you know what? These were like little badass kids, okay? What do they care? So just after midnight, the party was running out of beer, so Tyler asked his two friends, Mark Andrews and his girlfriend, Ashley Greshman, to drive him to the gas station so he could buy some more. Mark was 21, so he went into the store to make the purchase with money that Tyler gave him. While they waited in the car, Tyler mentioned to Ashley that his dad had died. She thought, you know, like anybody else would think, that meant like a long time ago. Where is the brush that I want to use? I've got a giant thing of brushes right here, and I always use like the same 4. Back at the party, the kids are going wild, right? They're doing stupid shit, they're being loud and all that, And Tyler seemed to not have a problem with it. He was pretty much allowing these kids to like wreck the house. And they were. Just like throwing stuff on the ground, putting cigarettes out on the furniture. What is wrong with these kids? The house was already kind of a mess by the time the party started, The white tiled floor was grimy, the picture frames on the wall were crooked or missing, and there was spots on the floor that were covered in like a sticky brown goo, and it stunk. It smelled bad in there. One party goer described it as smelling like sweaty clothes that had been sitting around for too long. And then with the house filled with kids smoking pot, drinking beer, doing whatever it is that kids do at these kinds of parties, they had free reign of the house, except for the master bedroom. That door was locked. So the party is going on into the night. It's getting late, and some of the kids were starting to leave. They thanked Tyler for the epic rager, man. Do kids say that? No, they used to. And Tyler just said, oh yeah, man, I just wanted to do something fun before I left. Okay, are you going somewhere? What's going on? And he said, oh, I was just thinking I was gonna kill myself. Or maybe I'll just go away for a while. Or maybe kill myself. Tyler. Now, this kid, Tyler, I haven't gotten into it, but he was a weirdo. He was always saying kind of bizarro stuff, making 17-year-old jokes. So they just were like, okay. So around 1 a.m., Tyler asked his best friend, Michael Mandel, to step outside so they could have a little chat. Tyler and Michael had been best friends since they were about 8 years old. And Tyler told Michael, I killed my parents. Huh? And Tyler said, look around, man. If you look close enough, you see signs. So Michael's looking around, right? And he is putting the pieces together. Both of Tyler's parents' cars were parked in the driveway. But if Tyler's parents were both out of town, why would they leave both cars behind? Wouldn't at least one of them be missing? Tyler then took Michael inside the house to the master bedroom and unlocked the door. Hold on to your butts. Once the door was open and Michael's looking around inside, it was a mess, okay? There was dining room chairs, broken glass picture frames, clothing, blood-soaked clothing, blood-soaked towels, blood, and a leg sticking out from under the pile. So Michael hurried out of the room and shut the door, and they locked it behind him. So now that Michael knew that Tyler was serious, he started to really see what he hadn't saw before, the bad cleanup job. Beer pong was being played on a table, on the dining room table, and the ball, sometimes it bounces off onto the floor, and it was bouncing onto the floor that was smeared with dried blood in the grout of the tile. Michael and Tyler went into the garage and posed for a selfie together. Michael said that he wanted to take a picture with Tyler because he knew that would probably be the last time that he ever saw him. Anyways, shortly after this, someone inside the party announced that there was another party nearby that was even better, so the house started to empty out. Before Michael left for the night, he found the bottle of Percocet that Tyler told him he was gonna swallow, and he hid it in a hall closet. The party continued to kind of dwindle for a few hours. People were coming in and out. Some of the people that had left and gone to the other party eventually came back because there wasn't a second party. And even as the sun was starting to come up, Tyler was still, awake and partying. It was like he never wanted it to end. But at 4:40 a.m., Tyler posted another Facebook status. Party at my house again. HMU. Hit me up. It seemed like Tyler never wanted it to end because he didn't. He knew that by the time that party was over, he was either going to be dead or arrested. What Tyler didn't know in that moment when he made that status update was that it was over. Michael had called the police and told them everything. Let's back it up. Blake and Mary Jo Hadley moved to Port St. Lucie, Florida in 1987 to be closer to Blake's parents. Mary Jo was a school teacher, and Blake worked at the St. Lucie nuclear power plant. They had 2 children, 2 boys, one named Ryan and one named Tyler. As a child, Tyler was a pretty happy kid, normal. He played outside, he rode his bike, he skateboarded, he was friendly and polite, he was close to his parents. His older brother Ryan was 6 years older than Tyler, so it was quite an age gap. And when Tyler was about 12 years old, Ryan had moved out of the house to go to college. Now, Tyler had some serious body issues as an adolescent. He complained that he wasn't tall enough, and his mom, Mary Jo, was someone, she would do anything for her kids. Anything and everything. She didn't want him to be teased at school for being short and chubby, so she had a doctor put Tyler on human growth hormones. I'm not a doctor, but it doesn't seem to me like HGH and puberty is like a good mixture. Maybe let's not with the hormone bonanza. Yikes. So, like I said, once Tyler got into his adolescence and teen years, especially into his teen years, things started to change. He grew quiet and unpredictable and, weird, just like a volatile kid. Tyler started getting into the wrong crowd, bad kids. Mary Jo did everything she could. She got him onto various medications to help him with anxiety and depression. He got into fights, and he was even arrested for aggravated battery, and he spent a week at the St. Lucie County Jail. Then, on top of that, 2 weeks of house arrest. On a Friday night in June, about a month before this house party, Tyler had been admitted to New Horizons, which is a mental health clinic, and his mom, Mary Jo, knew that Tyler's mental health was severe, like he was really having a hard time, struggling. She knew that if she didn't do everything she could to help him, that it was just going to get worse. About 2 weeks before the house party, Tyler was hanging out with his friend Marky Phillips, who was not at the July house party. In the middle of their conversation, Tyler just started randomly talking about how much he wanted to kill his parents and then have a big party in the house. How epic would that be to party with their bodies in the house? Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody ever took Tyler seriously, Tyler and all the weird things he would say. They just moved on the conversation to whatever it is they were talking about. All right, so if we cut back to July 16th, the day of the party, the day of the event. So at about 5 p.m., Tyler took his parents' cell phones and hid them so that they couldn't call for help. He then took 3 ecstasy tablets to get himself ready, and then he went into the garage and grabbed a hammer. Tyler's mom, Mary Jo, was sitting at the family computer in the kitchen dining room area. Tyler stood behind her for a full 5 minutes, just rolling his face off. Then he picked up the hammer and started beating his mother in the head with it. Hearing her screams, Tyler's dad, Blake, came running into the room, and he looked at Tyler and they met eyes, and he said, "Why? What? Why?" And then Tyler looked at him and said, "Why the fuck not?" Then Tyler picked up the hammer and did the same thing to Blake. Now, a little nugget that I have not mentioned was that Tyler was very, very skinny. Remember, he had some body dysmorphia issues and things like that. So he was a very, very tiny, skinny little guy. And his dad, Blake, was he was like a large man. His dad just must have been so shocked. You know what I mean? What is happening? And then Tyler was all drugged out of his mind. So when he was done, Tyler then wrapped up their heads with towels, and then he dragged them out of the kitchen dining room area into the master bedroom. He put that bloody hammer on the floor in between them, and then he started cleaning up the house. And everything that might have had evidence on it or, would have shown that something had happened in that house just was piled on top of their bodies in the bedroom. And once everything was all reasonably tidied up, he just locked the door and then invited his friends over. So the autopsy report showed that Blake Hadley suffered 65 blunt trauma injuries, soft tissue bruising, massive skull fractures, a broken arm, and a broken leg. Mary Jo suffered at least 35 blunt trauma injuries. So, cleaned up, and the parents are under a pile in the bedroom that's literally right off the kitchen. So as the party was happening, Tyler started to grow increasingly kind of concerned, I guess, about what was going to happen next. But YOLO! Wow. So after Michael Mandel called the Crime Stoppers hotline with that tip about, what he saw at Tyler's house, the police were dispatched to the Hadleys' home. And that happened around the same time as that second party invitation, the 4 a.m. one. So the police were dispatched to the house. They didn't approach at first, They first ran the license plates on the vehicles that were parked out front and in the driveway, and they verified that they did belong to Blake and Mary Jo Hadley, and one belonged to Tyler. Once the police confirmed that they were at the right house, they rang the doorbell, and the door was answered by a crazy-eyed Tyler, and Tyler said, "I know I'm going to Rock Road, just take me." Rock Road is the name of the street that the county jail is on. So with Tyler shackled in the driveway, the police entered the house and Tyler started yelling, "Don't go in there." Well, it's a little late for that, my guy. When Tyler was arrested, he had a cocktail of drugs and alcohol in his system. In a jailhouse letter that he wrote to his grandparents, Tyler blamed the pills, all of the anxiety medicine and all of that stuff, and he seemed regretful. But in another letter that he wrote to a friend, he bragged about how popular the murder case was. He also signed autographs for other inmates, and he signed the autographs "Hammer Time." So by the time the case was ready to go to trial, Tyler originally was going to plead insanity, but he changed his mind and pled no contest to the 2 counts of first-degree murder of his parents, Blake and Mary Jo. No contest is not a guilty plea, remember, but it means that you accept that the case against you is unbeatable. So it's like pleading guilty without having to say it. Tyler Hadley was the first juvenile killer in Florida to be sentenced since the U.S. Supreme Court barred mandatory life sentences for minors in 2012. It doesn't mean that you can't still be sentenced to life, it just means that it's not mandatory. I need like a white eyeliner. Hold, please. So after serving 2 years of that original life without parole sentence, Tyler won an appeal that overturned that term, and 2 years after that, he was resentenced to life, but this time with the possibility of parole. Ooh, that's the ticket. I need an inner corner highlight. I need something in this inner corner. Tyler's legal team maintains that he is very remorseful and he has suffered severe mental illness since he was a little boy. He is currently serving his life sentence at the Okeechobee Correctional Institution. Did I say that correctly? I don't know. The Hadley's home was demolished in 2015 and the land was donated to the city of Port St. Lucie. And you know what? This is a running theme, I find. These homes being demolished after something terrible happens in them. And you know what? It's really kind of the best thing that you can do for a neighborhood when something terrible like that happens in it, because how else are these communities supposed to recover? They're affected too, they just sort of become these weird, gross, morbid tourist attractions, That is the story of Tyler Hadley. So sad, so disturbing. Man, all those badass kids partying in a house with dead people inside it. Ugh, I can't. So gross. Like I said, everything that I used in today's video will be down in the description box if you're interested. If you have a Crue Trime story that you would like to recommend, just leave it down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to check out the Threadless shop for new merch designs. That will also be linked down below too. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. I upload new videos here on YouTube every week, and you can follow me on most of the other socials as well. That is it for now. I can't stop clapping. I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye! Listen, I told you that I wanted to be Trixie Mattel all the time, so here it is. About a week at the spending about a week, hold on, at the St. Lucie, goddamn, I cannot talk, in porn, and I really went wild today with this makeup. We're dispatched, fuck, oh, that's dried. Today's episode this episode of Crue Trime